Hi, everyone. It's Michelle from Studio City Now. And today my guest is Roland Stewart, aka Gib. Thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing?
You bet. Things are fine. Things are fine. Always, always looking for the next thing.
And as we were talking before, you said you're a real estate investor and you help people make $1 billion.
Well, I guide people in the right direction, and I work hard to help them get there.
Very cool. Because I want to be a millionaire and I don't want to sell Amway.
I don't think you'll have to, but we'll talk. We'll try and figure it out.
I know we
If we
will.
don't try, we won't get anywhere. But if we do try, things happen.
So, what got you into real estate?
I could not hold a job. Uh, we were concerned that I'd never have a retirement program. Uh, and my ex-wife received a big bonus on her job, and it looked like we were going to pay the federal government $10,000 in tax. And she said, "I can't do that. I've worked too hard." So she said, "How do we do this?" I said, "Well, the only way I know is the current real estate taxes. I mean, the real estate write-off, and that was
Mhm.
November of 1977. There was a lot of write-off available. Um, Jimmy Carter uh, interest rates were horrible, but that's okay. That came a couple years later. Um,
Mhm.
so we still had reasonable interest rates. Even today, okay, so we've gone through, what, 18 years, 22 years of 2 and 3%. I still consider a reasonable interest rate 7%. It's what I grew up with. Yeah, I can make the numbers work at 7%.
Mhm.
I'm, I'm ready to go. So we went out and we looked at single family dwellings, and we looked at duplexes and triplexes, and we kept doing the math. And a friend of mine uh, brought me a 14 plex, and I said, "Well, I think I can do that." And we figured out what the down payment was,
Mhm.
and we figured we could take a second mortgage on our house. Uh, we had the 10,000 that wasn't going to go to the government. Um, and then five friends of mine loaned me between uh, $2,000 and $5,000.
Which was a lot in
It was a
1977.
lot of money. Okay, oh, I've only started to really realize that in the last 10 years. So that 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 be my. I knew I could pay it off. I knew we would. By then, we knew who we were. When we were
Mhm.
in the army, I was in the army. She was with me. Um, for almost a year and a half, we saved 75% of our income. 75% of our income went to savings. So the first time we tried to invest, we went to the stock market, right? Go to a stockbroker, get somebody conservative. Uh, the guy we were with went to manage Berkeley's retirement fund, so you know how good he was, right? And then we got the new guy, and the new guy lost every single penny.
Oh no.
$10,000, 4 years of saving down the tube. So the next time we got money, it wasn't going to go to the stock market. We knew that. We needed some control. Not like we could probably do better than that on our own. So we ended up buying the 14plex. We paid off all the first extra money we got every time went to paying somebody off. Got everybody paid off, and then eventually that building paid off. And then we had that money, and then we did a 1031 exchange, and we got the apartment complex from Hill in Oceanside, California, and
Mhm.
the residual was something like $2,700.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "We're going to take the money and pay the tax because I am exhausted." And she bats her eyes and says, "Do you remember how much fun we had camping with the kids when we were in Palm Springs?" We had, we had been coming back from Kentucky, where she was from, and happened to end up in this area, and we're ready to go to bed, and we found a camping site and had camped here, and it was, of course, beautiful weather. And so I flew down one weekend, and over the weekend I saw 19 different condominiums.
Whoa.
And so I sat down at the local Burger King and wrote up 19 offers and handed them to the real estate agent. So he delivered them, and by Wednesday we had 3 yeses back, and the rest were no. Okay, I'm fine. What I did was, when I saw a place, the more I liked it, the closer I got to the asking price.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, 3 of them were accepted. She flew down the next weekend, picked out the one, and she lives about a mile that way and still has it. And we're good friends, and that's all. A lot of history wrapped in one little bundle.
Uh-huh.
So then I retired at 50 because I didn't need to work anymore, right? I got high enough to be in the top 3% of state of Oregon employees, and then got fired. And it was fortunate because I ended up with a half-time job, and she was half-time and I was half-time, so we never had to pay a whole lot of babysitting fees because we just juggled our schedules depending on who needed to be where. Very fortunate. And then we could grow our other business in the same time because we could do paperwork while we're babysitting. So then I retired, and a few months later, a good friend of mine asked me up to go to lunch. And I went to Portland and went to lunch with him, and he said, I need more space. My dental practice is growing. I can't expand in the current building, but I would like to expand. Will you help me find space? Well, in those days, dental offices used to put out a lot of smells, so not everybody wanted to rent from them. So a couple months later, he's driving home, goes by a lot that was sold by one of the major retailers in Portland, and he said, that'd be a great place for an office. Can we build one? I said, I don't know. I know nothing. I'm a landlord. At any rate, so we went out and we found out how we decided we needed a developer. That's how this started. And then we went out and interviewed 3 developers, and we were on the way back to his office, and he says, hey, Gib, I think you should develop this. Who, me? At any rate, eventually we agreed that I would try to do this job, but we needed to have which one of the 3 are we going to hire in case I'm just a total failure. So we bought the lot. I think it was a 1031 exchange to buy the lot. Then we went out and interviewed architects. The 3rd architect, maybe the 4th one that we went to, was a guy that had just left the big architectural firm he was in, had this little office, and we looked at each other and said, this looks like the guy we should hire, because it was real efficient, I guess you would say. And we met him, and he very personable and really knew what he was talking about. We could figure that out because we talked to enough people before. Hired him, put the building up. It's been fully occupied for 24 years. Right? Not without a lot of heartache. I mean, I built the building on credit cards, and we had 2 leases, but we needed one more to get the bank to give us a loan. And that was a pretty stressful time because we got down to where a couple of credit cards were like 4 days away to go to 19%, right? So, so that building went up. So I went back to being a landlord, and the contractor who had done the dentist tenant improvements came to me and said, let's go to lunch. I said, okay. And we were talking at lunch, and he says, you need to put more buildings like that up. I said, well, sure, okay. Tell me how I'm going to do this. He says, I don't know. Let's go talk to David. David was the architect for the building. So the three of us sat down and we figured, okay, David could put a standard building together. The contractor could build them and I could lease them out. Okay, so we were going to do that. And I can't believe the two of them didn't understand more because they were both experienced. I'm the new guy on the block, right? So at any rate, okay, so then we, in some portion of 2000, can't even remember what part of the year it was. That's funny, right? I had found a lot. It was way bigger than what we needed. The guy was not willing to sell me one lot, which is what I wanted. He wanted the whole thing gone. I figured, well, we could probably do that and maybe even sell off the rest. And we went through the history and said, no, that's not going to happen. But the dentist that had asked us to do this, right? Because my dental friend sent out the word. This guy said, yeah, I want to do this. It was in his territory, so we knew we had at least one tenant. We started to go. So the architect drew up a plan, and I got the dentist to sign a lease. That's two. That's one person in there. I could probably get two in because I'd probably get the guy that I built the building for to rent a little space, but I needed three. And every Friday evening, I would knock on a dental surgeon's door on my way back to Salem and chat with him for a while. Well, he was looking at two buildings, mine and another one. Well, the other real estate agent came in one day and called him by his nickname. And I went by Friday and I said, how you doing? What are you thinking? What can I do to make this more appealing to you? And he says, nobody calls me my nickname unless I tell them they can. And so he's out and you're the only one left. So I'll sign a lease for your building. And he took half the first floor. I got the loan. So that was that. And then we went through a lot of heartache, but it ended up being, and we lost three of the five partners along the way for different reasons. We ended up with a 5-building medical dental campus with a large parking facility in the middle. And a couple of years later, we started with 5 guys throwing $2,500 in the pocket. That's $12,500. It's a little bit worth a little bit more today, less today than it was then, but still, you had to come up with a buck or two. And we ended up with a $30 million medical dental building.
Wow. Now you've said several times you were in Oregon. Did you live in Oregon or work for the government?
Lived in Salem. Well, depends. I was in Oregon before I went in the Army. Came back to Oregon so that Bonnie, my ex-wife, could get her degree. We settled in Salem, Oregon. That's a long, hard story. And I'll get there. And so when I was working for the state of Oregon, we lived in Portland, and then I became the state economist for northeastern Oregon, for the state of Oregon, and then I got a promotion that I thought I could never get, and went to the director's office of the Department of Human Services, and did budget and program review. So, and was there for a long time.
And you said you were laid off?
I was actually probably pretty fired. Um, they came to the entity I was working in and they said, we need one person. And I had raised my hand a few times, too many, objecting to some things that were happening. And so I was chosen. I was also the youngest person by far. So I was chosen to be the person to be laid off. So I got laid off and I picked up the half-time job and worked there for 7.5 years half-time while I was doing these other things. Worked out.
It definitely did work out. Now, I have a slight idea what a 1031 exchange is, sort of. I
1031 exchange, it allows you to take your equity
mm-hmm.
and move it to a larger building or larger buildings, and it depends on the rules change over time. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to someone the other day about a thing I wanted to do. They said, well, the rules for the 1031s have changed a lot, so you better check them out carefully and have a good exchange company. So the exchange company holds your money, holds your equity, and you find a larger or similar, used to be, you had to be larger or similar building, and you can put your money into that without having to pay any taxes on that equity.
Oh, yeah, that has changed. Because I had a real estate license when I took the boards 1989.
Okay.
It was a little different. If you ask me what it is, I have no idea.
Well, sometimes you've been able to exchange. Like I am sure, not positive, I'd have to ask Bonnie, that we exchanged something for that $10,000 lot that we put the first building up on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that means to me that we were in a system where I could take that and move it to a smaller place and move the other part to a bigger place. That's not always been true. It used to be in the beginning, it was you had to go bigger. That was the beginning, and then it deteriorated. And then at one point, it deteriorated far enough that you could take your equity and like put it in the stock market instead of real
Mm-hmm.
estate. I mean, that defeats some part of that whole system, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever the government does, you gotta stay within their rules in order to facilitate your life. I grew up in a Catholic military family. I know how to follow rules.
I went to Catholic schools for 10 years.
Okay.
I had Attila the nun.
I had her in the 8th grade.
Me too. She pulled this earring straight through my ear and lied about it. And people wonder why I'm agnostic.
Yeah, funny thing.
It's even funnier, best friend or one of my best friends.
Yeah.
He's a priest.
Oh, nice. Good.
Yeah, we all grew up together. And so you were in the army. I take it you were drafted.
Okay, so I graduated from university and started hitchhiking across the country just because I wanted to do something, right? I wanted to get somewhere. I was pretty down and out at that point in my life.
Mhm.
And I got someplace in Montana and checked in with my folks, and my father said, your draft notice arrived. I've never seen that document in all these years. He's long dead. And I never bothered to because everything turned out so well for me. I immediately hitchhiked back to Salem because I pretty much knew I would want to live in Oregon. I thought I'd never live in Salem. I thought I'd never date another woman named Mary. And I thought there was a third thing. Oh, I'd never work for the government. So I ended up doing all three for a long part of my life. But that's all right. You're young. You make stupid decisions. So I hitchhiked back. I signed up to go to artillery OCS. So I went to basic training in Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to advanced training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And then I went through OCS in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So that was the beginning. And then I went to Kentucky, which is where I met Bonnie. And we got married, and we were married for 40 years before she decided I should leave.
40 years?
And 40 years and 4 months.
Divorced in California?
No, divorced in Oregon.
Oh, because I know in
She went on,
California.
she went online, found the divorce documents, filled them out, said, how about this? I said, fine. And we submitted them, and then she forgot to get them signed. She had my signature, she had her signature, she needed the judge's signature. And at some point, somebody called her and said, what do you want us to do with this paper?
Now, I work in family law, and in California, after 10 years, it's lifetime alimony.
Oh, really?
That's why I asked.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
we would have just split the assets differently. I'm sure. I, she still does all the books for the businesses that she and I put together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on my own for everything I've done in the recent years, which is why I'm having a little bit of heartache doing the taxes this year. But
Taxes, I've heard that word.
yeah,
So, hey, I'm glad it was very amicable.
but we never hurt each other. We never cheated on each other. One of us never spent any big amount of money without the other one knowing about it. We never did anything like that. So there wasn't any hurt.
Yeah,
We were lucky.
you're very fortunate.
Mhm.
Now, when we were talking earlier, um, you had said, and I hope I get this right, you had said you were training someone or you help people become millionaires.
Well, I try to. Okay, so I have this young man, I can't remember, 34 years old maybe, real young, and he's got a talent. I mean, he can talk people into crazy stuff. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so he's a good salesperson, right? But
Yeah.
he can't understand the basic math of you can't give this away and sell it for this and then have so much support group that you have to pay them all of the profit. You need to save at least $100 for yourself, right? Or at least pay your living expense. And I mean, he's capable of selling $250,000 a year, but because he can't understand the basics, back off a little bit. Here's the basics. I could get him. He could take home 100 and a quarter, 150 a year. If you do that wisely and you don't pay taxes with all that money, all of a sudden you're making an awful lot of money a year, and it's growing for you instead of for the government. And all of a sudden you turn around, you wake up, you're a millionaire. I will tell you that, it's probably 2 years now. So we started the $30 million campus, and in 2001, I believe, we probably broke ground, and we finished it in 2016, probably something like that. And so by 2018, it was fully. We've had one office that's never been occupied, and it's my favorite. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. And it's small, so it's only about 1,400 square feet. So out of 107,000 square feet. which I always thought was pretty big time, right? Okay, 100. I put this thing together. It's 107. That that was only one floor of the World Trade Building.
Whoa.
Yeah. Okay, that was a no problem. I don't think this is that big a deal, right? At any rate, by putting that campus together and the other building, uh, I I either made or helped make uh, between 14 and 16 people millionaires, right? So that gives you a start. Oh, I know where it's headed. Okay, so I finished in 2018, 16, and by 18 it was worth $30 million. And it wasn't until late 2021 when I realized how much money that was. Okay, just didn't ever click in. And I said, how did I do this? By then my kids were asking me, how did you put all this stuff together, Dad? Right? So I wrote the book, Learn, Apply, and Grow Rich, which hasn't sold that well. I wish it would sell more. I mean, it's 99 cents, right? So if
Uh-huh.
you read a book, 99 cents, and in the first 10 pages, it tells you everything you need to do to be a millionaire. I mean,
On Amazon,
Amazon, yeah.
so it's a 99 cents. That would be a Kindle book.
Yeah, if you do it in Kindle, here's my understanding. If you do it in Kindle, it's free. If you do it on you have to work around their system, but you can buy it for 99 cents.
Okay, yeah, Amazon is unique.
Yeah, I have two stores in their storefront. I actually have three. Um, got three stores in their storefront. I go through their media account, and we're advertising things on another portion. So I'm 3 pages into Amazon. We're there.
Then that brings me to something else. That's kind of like affiliate marketing.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of money to be made if you can do it right. Um, we've stumbled a couple of times. It looks like we might be on the verge of making it work. Um,
Yeah.
so since retiring, I've the first year I bought some ad arbitrage sites, and I got into these two stores. And then the second year, um, the first January 2nd, I opened three new companies. Okay, um, and other people are working them. I don't have the time or energy to work these things, but one of them, well, the first one I did was several years ago. I don't think, yeah, I think Bonnie and I had been apart for a year and a half or so, and the guy who was doing all the heating and ventilation for all our commercial buildings, we have 7. Okay, so he was doing the 7 of them, and he told me he was going to retire. Well, I had a young kid who wasn't that young, but young enough. Um, he had called me every quarter for 4.5 years. Can I give you a bid? Can I give you a bid? Can I give you a bid? So the next time he called, I said, let's go to coffee. And we sat down at a coffee shop. We talked about it. I gave him all the information I could on all 7 buildings. Wasn't much, but this is a start. You have my permission to go into the HVAC rooms, and I'll get you there. And then I said, made the mistake of saying, well, what do you want to do with your life? He says, well, I've been, the last 4 years, 3 out of 4, I've been the top salesman in the greater Portland area. I said, so that's what you want to do for the rest of your life? He said, actually, I would like to own a heating and ventilation company. I said, what's keeping you? He says, nobody has any money, which of course I know is false, but people don't think they have any money. I said, okay, you have $100,000. Let's go find them. So we went out. First one was way too big. We would have died within months, if not sooner. The second and third one were small mom and pops, and we wanted something a little bigger than that. So the third one was producing about grossing about 400,000. So we put $100,000 down and we bought it, and set up a payment plan, and he started running it. Well, last year he was at 3.1 million. Pretty tremendous growth, right? And we have
Yeah.
the underlying has been long paid off. We paid that out quickly. The seller made so many mistakes. It's unbelievable. So he sold it to us. We're fine. We agreed on a payment plan after, here's the 100,000, we'll pay you off like this. And about every 4 months, he called us and asked us to pay a little extra. I said, okay, well, you need 200,000. I'll come up with it. That's no problem. But I want you to reduce the amount owed to you by 400,000. So, oh yeah, I need the 200,000. And he did that like 3 times. So we ended up paying a whole lot less for the building. But it's not my fault that he didn't know how to control money.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
have
so he's
found,
building the 3.1
wow. No, I have found a lot of people don't know how to handle their money.
at all. Zero.
Exactly. And one of the things I kind of wonder about, although it doesn't affect me, um, it's kind of on topic, but a little off topic. I see apartment buildings going up constantly. One bedroom apartments for 2,500 a month. Anywhere from, and down the street, there's a building and their studio apartments are 3,100 a month. Who can afford that?
Yeah, really. No question in my mind. So a friend of mine is taking old houses,
Mm-hmm.
splitting them up, 3-story old houses, and splitting them up into 2 apartments on the first floor, 2 apartments on the second floor, maybe 3 on the third floor, right? And offering them at a reasonable rate, and just buys the next big house, makes it a 4 or 5-plex. He's doing well.
Yeah, I've seen that with a lot of the landmark housing or historical houses.
I bet. So,
Yeah, you get very unique looking apartments.
yep,
So do you give courses on this? I mean, you did say you have that book, Learn, Apply, Grow Rich.
yep. Do I
But
give courses? No. Am I willing to? Yes. But again, do I have the energy to go out there and make this thing happen? I'm not so sure. I might. Right now, just everything's so exciting. So, I mean, we have a guy who's pretty smart on Amazon products getting from Southern California or Japan or Germany, getting those products into Amazon and being spotlighted in the advertising. So one of the companies I made at the beginning of this year was called Trust 3 Logistics. And we have an ad out that says, hey, are you having problems being stalled at the front door of Amazon? We can help you. Might work, might not work. He tells us that there are thousands of companies that take forever to get through Amazon. He said, I could train them how to get through in a day.
wow.
So do you want to spend 3 weeks at the door waiting to get in, or do you want to be on the shelf next week? So that was one of them. What's the other one? Another one's A plus sales. So a friend of mine who's at a higher level than anyone I've ever known in the corporate world, and he's responsible for IT work for his company. And he used to be working in one of the subsidiaries Now he's working for the top headshot and having the 7 subsidiaries follow the rules for IT. So it all works together. And he's ramrodding that thing for the last couple of years. After he and I got together on some other stuff, but that's okay. It's still, the other stuff is still there. We're both still interested. We just both need time. At any rate, he and I and a third person are responsible for the sales for A Plus Coding, Coding. And they're a coding company and they're offshore so they can give better prices. And the three of us are trying to make this end of the world work so that we use those folks to do the coding. And they have the coding company, and we talk to them every day. So that's one of them. And I can't remember what the name of the third one is. So, all right.
So if anybody wanted to reach you, because we found each other through LinkedIn,
Yes.
how else would they find you?
Continue forward at live.com. That's my email.
Cool.
Continue forward at live.com.
Very cool. Well, thank you so, so much.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Yeah. Good.
And I'm going to send you a message in a second.
Sounds great.
Okay, but you have a wonderful, it's what, Tuesday already?
Yeah, I had to ask Alexa. I
No,
couldn't figure out where I was. So,
Siri says Alexa doesn't know.
somehow she figures it out.
Alexa says.
Right.
Anyway, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, great. Thank you
Okay.
very much for having me.
Okay, and thank you. You have a wonderful day.
Will do. Take care.
Okay, bye.